Hey, I'm Romesh, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Briefing, a podcast focused on helping lawyers build successful legal practices and lead healthier lifestyles. Look, you may think the legal profession is slow to change, but the truth is there are many lawyers using technology to practice more efficiently, deliver greater value, and balance their personal and professional responsibilities. The Entrepreneur Briefing features the stories of these legal professionals and the founders of technologies driving the transformation of the legal profession. Together, I am confident we can help each other reach our personal and professional goals in an age of rapid cultural, social, and technological change. Thanks for sharing your day with me. Let's begin. So today, we're continuing with my conversation with Toufic Adlouni. Listen in as Toufic dishes on the worries he has about the future of the legal profession, some easy practices law firms can implement today to collect more revenue and increase client loyalty, and lastly, what weddings in Tajikistan can teach us about how to run a law firm. Enjoy the conversation. Have you ever been worried about your future in the legal profession?
Yeah, I totally have. Of course, I've had.
What was it like?
As the rejection letters were piling up, I was really questioning my whole kind of
choices.
Yeah, obviously was questioning my choices. You know, like I went from my cushy government job right out of undergrad, and because I didn't get into any law school except this one conditionally. I took this job, and then I was doing the French exams, trying to get in. And that kind of just pushed me to it because I was like, oh, good God, I could work for the public service for my entire life. And I could bat an eye, and 30 years later, I would be here type of thing. I took this huge risk and then moved to Quebec City and everything. And it's still been a challenge. Like, I'm not out of it, I would say. My challenge of being a lawyer is not, it's an everyday challenge, because I don't think the system, I would say, was not built for me, but it was also really built for me. I think that if I was at one of the top Bay Street law firms, I would have done really, really well just by my entrepreneurial nature. But getting the way in which I kind of meandered into this profession was not the way in which most people did. And because of that, I think they looked at that with kind of suspicion and maybe said, what? We're going to go for the tried and true type of profile that has done this firm well for the last however long. And yeah, every day I question my role here. Every day.
Speaking of which, what does the future of the legal profession look like? Let's say 5 years from now. Like, what is it?
The future of the legal profession? I don't think it's going to change all that fast. I think that hopefully what I'm looking for is that, and I think this is where, I kind of come out, is that I think that these types of firms that are these startup firms, like the ones in which you're kind of interviewing and alluding to, I think they're going to be really huge, change instigators in this type of, in our industry. And we have to be change instigators. The people at the top will say they change, but it's almost as a marketing purpose, right? But at the end of the day, the fundamentals, I don't think the fundamentals are going to change. And I think that the only way the fundamentals are going to change is if they feel, some pain in their purse. And I hope to inflict that pain on them. I think that change has to happen from that. And my goal is to be able to disrupt and change at least the legal industry in a way for it to be better for clients.
Is it fair to say that they have a decision to make as well? And so it's really that you're not inflicting the harm. It's just that they're choosing to stay in a system that's going to slowly decrease in relevance over the long term.
Yeah, I think that would be a more, less dramatic way to say it.
I'm trying to help you out here, man.
I was doing a bit of a rallying cry, but yes, I think that time and time again, you can look at many case studies and look at it, almost metaphorically to what's happening now in the legal industry, and see folks who had the culture of change, who had change considerations built into their organization, change management built into their organization. Those are, the types of organizations that survive. But it's very hard. And especially as you grow older, this is quite interesting, actually. I think this was, what book was I reading? This was in Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. Have you read that book?
I have heard of it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. But it's talking about how, after a certain age, the amount of change in your opinion kind of decreases hugely. You get locked in. If you were listening, the music you listened to at 29, you're probably still listening to now. And because of that, psychological kind of nature of humanity, it's actually quite tough for organizations to change and individuals to change. My hypothesis is that they don't have very good change policies. They don't manage change well, and they don't even have a change kind of accelerator, almost something to kind of like jump into it and force it to happen in your organization. At the long end of the stick, I think it's really important that we do use the technologies that we have at our disposal to help out. And I know that we had this discussion back where we met about, obviously the role of AI and what it can do.
Which is a great segue. I mean, so what will your practice look like 5 years from now?
For sure. I think that's what we're looking at doing, is making sure that many of the types of transactional tasks that we do, of the drafting tasks that we do, the research tasks that we do, we want it to be up to 70 to 80% automated. I think that will allow us to become kind of lawyers who are relationship managers or strategizers, who are business developers and partners, right? Real partners with our clients, and not actually just document drafters. What I call sometimes, the overpaid scribe role, which is what some of us are.
Yeah.
The AI overlords will actually save us from ourselves. We are, let's be honest, and let's have a frank conversation about this. We are unhappy. We are overworked. I think, lawyers have an extremely high suicide rate.
On every single indicator of human well-being, lawyers are actually lower than the general population.
For sure. It's the nature of the way the job is structured currently. It is a job in which our time is our money, and our time is finite.
And we sacrifice our time with our families, or our time exercising, or our time building healthy lives in order to do work for clients.
If you are a slave to the billable hour, you're stuck to that. And if you can automate some of these things, it's not that we're going to make less money. It's that we're going to be able to make actually more money and have more time to live more, balanced lives.
At the end of the day, like you, I think technology is a way to help us work more efficiently.
Yeah.
Right? That's all it is. Right? And as a result of working more efficiently, we can spend more. We can actually give more value to clients, right? We can spend more time with our families, and with our children, and we can live healthy lifestyles. Who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't?
And I guess that's the issue. Who doesn't want that outcome?
For sure. I've experienced burnout as a lawyer, and it sucks. It really, really, really.
It's awful.
Sucks.
It's fucking awful. I struggle with depression. Absolutely.
I remember it was the weekend of Saint Jean Baptiste here in Quebec, and I had to get something out the door, and there was literally not a soul in the office, and I'm typing the shareholders agreement and my eyes are blurry. I can't see the screen anymore. I am out. Like, I can't read. I can't think. I called the client and I'm like, hey, I can't do this right now. Can it wait for next week? He was like, fine. I hung up. I went to the couch. I literally slept to the next day in the office.
Yeah.
That's not healthy. And I know that this is not a story that is unique to mine. There are probably hundreds of lawyers with thousands of those stories out there, just like you were suggesting.
Again, you great segues, man. So what is one practice or habit in the legal profession that you think should change?
There's so goddamn many. But I'm going to start with a really simple one. We have to learn how to write better dockets. And when clients talk to me, they say, I ask for something, a lot of other things happen, I don't know what happened, and I get a bill. A lot of times it's very convoluted. A lot of times there's not enough information. A lot of times they use words that are not, readily digestible. Like, we're going to try to legalese our way out of questions about billing. I think that's just so counterintuitive, right? Like, people want to know what they're paying for. They want to know that it's for value, and they want to know what it is exactly each mandate costs. And if we could just give people that, let's start with the low-hanging fruits. And this really comes back to you having good faith, right? Why do clients don't pay their lawyers? It's probably because they think their lawyer is always trying to gyp them with this jargon that they throw into the bill. At our firm, we have a really strict docket policy. There is a template. You use that template, and it's expansive. It's clear. It doesn't use any big words. It is so the client can understand. And then in the bill, it's broken up per sub mandate, so they know how much each mandate that they did cost on their whole bill.
Are you proactive in keeping your clients and telling your clients how much of time you've spent on their matters?
Yeah, so we do it every end of the month. We let everyone know. We are also building our client portal, which is going to have a kind of news feed. So every time something happens, it's easy. APIs from our legal practice management software into there. Every time something happens in the file, you're going to have an up-to-date bill. It's literally our legal obligation under our ethics code to do that.
That's absolutely, yeah.
We run away from it like as far as we can go, and it's not. I don't find it correct. I find that people want transparency, people want accessibility, and I think if you can give them transparency and accessibility, I think maybe they'll be more willing to pay you. So.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you're proactive. And I think this is a great thing to change, because I find that clients are so much more unwilling to pay your bill if you haven't told them till the last minute. Like the sticker shock. Like, you've got to keep them apprised. Be proactive about it.
You do. And that's why I like to have conversations with my clients every time, being like, hey, this is what's coming, blah, blah, blah. Have a conversation with them, right? Don't be afraid. Honesty can really, really be a strong weapon,
if used proactively, absolutely.
With managing your clients. And I think that.
So why do you think that people's billing practices are shit?
It is not, and this is another huge cultural problem, I think, is that we don't look at our relationship with our clients as kind of like a partnership, as we are helping you achieve success. We look at it as an extraction mechanism, right? How much can we extract? Right? And it's transactional. It is, I give you services X, you deliver money Y. We're looking at this. We're looking at our clients with big dollar signs. You know, how much can I extract out of you for the least amount of time, for the most amount of value? And they're not gold mines, our clients, right? But I think that if you look at them as a partner, say, we're going to grow with you, we're going to help you, we're going to, we're going to be that person who's responsible to take on your challenges.
The values in the relationship, absolutely. Let's talk about advice we would give to others. I mean, what is one piece of practical advice you'd give to, let's say, a law student right now?
Do you really want to be a lawyer?
Quit.
Look yourself hard in the mirror and ask yourself, do you want to be a lawyer? I really think people should ask themselves before they go. A lot of people go into law school because they feel like it's something they have to do, to make their parents proud or whatever. I think that a lot of people do it for status. A lot of people do it, I found in my law school there was a lot of intellectually lethargic people. They were there just to look good and have a stable job. I think my biggest advice to people is to really, really ask yourself before you get a whole bunch of debt and go through it all. It is painful. Let's be honest. It's painful. It's not like, I think everything is painful, but it's pretty painful. So do you really...
You're a ray of sunshine, man. Ray of sunshine right
now. Well, I think I am positive, actually. I think what I'm saying is essentially positive. Right?
No, you're being honest. No, it's
because
true.
I think that, part of the reason why there is such high levels of depression and whatever is because you have folks who were attracted by the image, and then the reality doesn't make up what that image was, right? There's essentially a dichotomy between what is in their mind as a lawyer, which is living a wealthy life with a nice office and handling beautiful cases, which is part of the practice, and then the freaking late nights eating sushi in a suit type of situation because you got a hearing the next day or whatever. You have to really ask yourself, what type of person am I? Am I the type of person who wants to be in this profession before you embark on the whole thing? And a lot of times you have to test it out yourself to see it wasn't for you, and that's fine. But I think that if a lot of people ask themselves that question before they embarked on this journey, we would have a little less depressed people. And maybe the other one I would say would be stay close to technology. I think that lawyers are not inept with tech. I think that tech lawyers are going to be hugely valuable in the future. A lot of our lawyers we hire at our firm have some sort of tech background, whether computer science or electrical engineering. I think there's going to be a huge value in the market. And I think if you really want to be that value added in this world, get that under your belt as well. Learn about that and stay close to technology. That's what I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then what's the advice that you'd give to another lawyer? Not like the people in charge of firms, but just a lawyer practicing. What should they be like watching out for?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think that for folks, I think they should just be open-minded. I think they should watch out for that reflex that you have when you hear something new about, and we all have it, even myself, as much as a person, I feel that I'm a person that accepts and pushes for change, but you'll hear someone talking about something, or you should do it like this, or there's this new thing that lets you do something in your practice like that, to be able to go away from that reflex, like, oh, I don't want to try that, not for me. Whatever that mental kind of take that takes you down that road where you kind of close that door, catch yourself in that reflex and be like, hold on a second. Let's not let this emotional response dictate if this thing is good for me or not, right? Let's analyze it rationally. Let's see its merits. look at its positives and negatives, and really, really see if it's, something that we can implement. It will do a world of good just to have this type of open-mindedness to the amount of change that's happening around you. And there could be such small things that you can do that could just make your practice, so much better, right? Like using just a practice management software, right? Instead of typing your bills in Word, right. It could do.
That's so foreign to me. The idea that you are typing your dockets out in Word. That's ridiculous.
I just saw a legal bill from one of my clients, the ex-lawyers. It was typed up in Word. And these technologies could really, it doesn't have to be like this crazy, what everyone's talking about. It could be something super simple as this legal practice management software, which allows you to take credit cards down, as a type of retainer, so to speak. So, if the people don't pay in 30 days, you can pull from the credit card,
Right.
Wow. How much problems would that solve? Right? How much problems would that solve for people? And it's
or document assembly, right? Like you need to have, especially in this day and age, you need to have a document assembly software.
Document assembly software would be great, or just using like a project management software. Like my law firm had no project management software, right? There are really cool softwares out there that help your life get better. And if you say, well, that's foreign to me, well, then go back to your secretary typing up your memos on a typewriter.
So we've gone to the law students, we've gone to the lawyers. What about people who own their firm? What should they be? Any advice you'd give to them?
Be a student of organizational culture. Learn about how to create a culture in your organization. Because if you have the right culture in your organization will succeed no matter what. If you build a culture of change acceptance, of open-mindedness, of radical transparency, right? If you build a culture where there is no hierarchy, where there is no competition, but we compete as a team and we work within as a team, you will see the insane amounts of growth that it will become. And the great thing about culture is it's kind of like the teaching a person how to fish and giving a person a fish, right? If you can teach your organization how to handle all the situations that may come up, it will by reflex do that. And the problem with culture and culture building is that it takes time. It takes time, it takes effort. If you can't just have a meeting and say, these are the cultures of the firm, follow them. It'll be followed for 30 minutes and everyone's going to forget. Culture and events is completely linked. I was listening to a podcast about a PhD sociologist who was comparing investment banker conferences to weddings in Tajikistan. And she said there's a lot of similarities. At a wedding in Tajikistan, it is essentially a way in which the group can reinforce its culture. It's like a cultural fountain. The group reinforces its values, reinforces its culture, and then brings everyone together under that same umbrella. And that's what she found when she was in investment banking as well. Those investment banking conferences, the speeches, the drinks, the workshops, reinforces the culture, reinforces the values. You need to, in your organization, build mechanisms that continuously reinforce culture and values. You will see how crazy it is that your organization will change. You have to be a student of culture. You have to.
Yeah, a really good friend of mine always says that culture beats strategy every single day.
Those strategy is also extremely important. I don't even think...
Strategy is important, but culture determines how you execute strategy.
Exactly.
And so what is one resource you would recommend the legal profession to read?
If I was going to choose one, there is really, no contender. It is definitely Principles by Ray Dalio. I've read it twice. So Ray Dalio is a hedge fund manager. He used to manage a hedge fund called Bridgewater and Associates, which is the most successful hedge fund in the world. He himself has a personal net worth of around $18 billion or something of the sort. But his book called Principles basically outlines the cultural principles in which he enforces in his company. And they are remarkable. They are so remarkable because they are so counterintuitive to the way in which organizations work right now. They're based upon the principles of radical open-mindedness, radical transparency, and idea meritocracy. What it essentially means is that Ray Dalio has created in his organization a culture where it is completely normal and open to put forward ideas and to have those ideas challenged, presented, voted, and for the best ideas to win, no matter where they come from. It has built an organization which has been greatly accepting of change, that has brought down almost all the barriers of interpersonal communication that we have as humans. We don't even, just to bring up an example, in a law firm, let's say you're at a boardroom and there's departments, right? If the managing director always talks first when there's an issue at hand, it is much more likely, and this is not just in law firms, this is in any organization, it's much more likely for everyone else around that table to agree with the managing partner, director, or decision maker, whatever you want to call them,
right,
than before. That is essentially a breakdown in the way in which decisions are made. The breakdown because there is not open-mindedness. The CEO is not open to other ideas. There's no transparency and honesty because there's not a free kind of flow of thoughts and opinions. And then there's no idea meritocracy because the best idea is not winning. It's not coming out on top. This essentially creates a huge breakdown in the way in which organizations are run. Some of the things that Ray Dalio suggests are a little intense, like every single meeting is recorded. They have baseball cards that have been developed over time saying, what are you good at? What are you not good at? It's quite normal in Bridgewater and Associates to be quite literally shat on for doing a poor job, but that kind of comes with this concept of radical transparency and open-mindedness. I find in the Canadian context is hilariously lacking. As you know, Canadians as a culture are very, what's that word I'm looking for? Non-confrontation, right? Especially in your business. Folks don't want to say that your work stinks. Folks always want to be positive. We live in a type of, and this is not only in Canada, but around the world in business communities where there is a real breakdown in business communication because of all this kind of customary thing that we're supposed to say in this and hierarchies and it's crazy. And there's a lot of research to be done on this as well. There's research about cognitive safe space and what a cognitive safe space is, in which you can actually create these spaces in your organizations where people are really free to express their opinions. It's really, really hard. Universities have tried to do it and failed really badly because it's hard to create. We have this internal gut instinct to be offended when someone criticizes our work or says it's not up to par. We have this internal gut instinct to please our superiors or to please our colleagues. We have this internal gut instinct to be liked. But the problem is that does not necessarily create the most efficient outcomes for the organization. And for us, we try really hard.
The failure to criticize means that you're not going to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem. Absolutely.
So at Rindo & Co., what we do, to solve that, because we attempt to implement radical open-mindedness and radical transparency, is we actually have a primer. You prime the person before you criticize, right? You prime it by saying, in the spirit of transparency. That's the primer.
That's great.
And then after someone's given that, you have to say, well, I accept your transparency and thank you.
I pride myself on being really straightforward to people. And I will say, like, look, and I will always say, especially internally, like, we're friends. So remember that. But because you're friends, I'm going to be straightforward with you. This was shit. It was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't have to be so blunt about it. You can be constructive about it. But yeah, essentially.
I think that, at least for me criticizing the work doesn't mean criticizing the person. It was crap for X, Y, and Z reasons. This is what I'm expecting of you to moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you don't give people that advice, they're going to keep repeating the same mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
right? In our profession, like, people are trusting us for our judgment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
We have to know
and
better.
Because of that, there's got to be a progression. There's got to be, like, saying we're not going to repeat the same mistakes. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing this for?
Yeah. And I actually retract what I said. You actually do have to be blunt. You do. Because
Can I be nice
a lot of people, their cognitive dissonance kicks in. If you want to give criticism in a fluffy way, a lot of times you take it, you might hear the good and not hear the bad, or take it in a different way. I've had situations where I've had conversations with people, and I've heard people in my business and hear people talk about those conversations with other people. And there's a complete, perspective dichotomy between the way in which that conversation went.
Yeah.
And it's tough, but a lot of times to really break it down is that you look that person dead in the eye and you use, no uncertain terms.
In the law firm, I think it's necessary.
It's more than necessary in the law firm. A law firm is a hyper hierarchical organization
space,
where the whole culture of the organization is built upon the up and out model. The up and out model is where you try to drive people via competition. Now, I'm a big believer in competition, but I think that there is the competition has to be us from within as a team, and then the competition we're having is from the outside of the team.
So what's one lesson that the legal profession can learn from another industry?
What is one thing to learn about? If I was going to use an anecdote, probably one of the things that I do now, because I've learned it from a startup founder, is this conception of practicing gratitude. It sounds a little weird again, but I do three things in the morning that help me really focus. I have a gratitude journal where I write every morning 3 things that I'm grateful for. Again, it sounds super corny, but it kind of works. I meditate, and then I go to the gym. And I think I hit those 3 things, and it is night and day how my day changes, especially when I do it on a consistent basis. It's something that I think, you speak to, the older generation, they really take this mental health issue kind of for granted. I'll talk to my father or relatives. They say, well, that's that's a Western invention. And what they wouldn't realize is that, something as I'm Muslim, and something as praying 5 times a day, they don't see that is actually in and of itself a form of meditation. And how much good it brings. I compare my parents. My mom she prays 5 times a day. My dad does not. And my mom has such an amazing ability to kind of leverage that and exploit it in her endeavors. It's such a positive part of her, and I think that a lot of the folks maybe, elder lawyers and stuff like that could really also benefit from, some sort of gratitude practice, exercise, healthy eating, meditation. And I think it kind of goes back down to this culture of the lawyer, right? Like, we're supposed to be like these, hardened fighters. And, the more we try to perpetuate this type of stereotype of what a lawyer is, the worse it becomes. And this is why I try to be as open as possible about all this stuff, is because I think it's, again, part of, this new movement of being open about it, but I think it does bring the world a whole lot of good, especially in a profession that is as ailed as ours.
Toufic, this has been a wonderful interview.
Yes.
Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
I think this was great. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. I've been really, really happy to be a part of this.
Cool. Thanks, man. Okay, talk soon. So thanks a lot for a great conversation, Toufic. So 3 takeaways from this conversation. 1, effective billing practices and easy-to-read bills reduce sticker shock for your services and help enhance your client's experience of your practice. Secondly, culture plays an important role in your employees' effectiveness. Make sure you promote a healthy corporate and law firm culture. And lastly, integrate cognitive safe spaces in your workplace to ensure the best decision is made. If you want to know more about Toufic and his team at Renault & Co., check out the services they make available to any startup that needs a legal partner on this journey. Links to both Renault and Toufic are in the show notes. Talk to you next week. Cheers. Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode of the Law Entrepreneur Briefing, please subscribe to this podcast and also join the Law Entrepreneur community on LinkedIn. The Law Entrepreneur community is where you can find more content to support your career growth and is also where you can apply to be a guest on the podcast. A link to the Law Entrepreneur community is in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you inside the community.